we live? We're live. Hey, if we're live immediately, I know a few of us are live in the chat room. Let me know if you cannot hear me. So I brought out the microphone today to make the audio a little bit better. If you cannot hear me, I want you guys to know. Welcome everyone for the final book club chapter in the Foundations of Strength Training for Swimmers. First and foremost, thank you everybody for anyone and everyone who's gone through from chapter 1, the core, from the streamline and leading all the way up through explosive training, plyometric, hypermobile versus stiff swimmers, recovery injuries that was just recently, and now finishing with testing, which I know is such a huge topic. A lot of coaches are pulling their hairs trying to figure out what to test, why to test them, how to test them. And a lot of those questions I'm going to talk to you here and present to you. But I don't want to overwhelm things with you guys. I'm not going to go through and cite a lot of research and research papers. Eventually on the Super Strength website, I'm going to get out another free resource. If you are part of the newsletter, you will get all of them, which is essentially all of the references I have in the back of the book. And also, in addition, all of the books that I recommend you guys reading if you want to have the knowledge and arsenal that I have, because I know that a lot of people are kind of trying to replicate what other people are doing. Even though I like to dabble what other coaches do and other methodologies, I take just mostly principles and apply it to the swimmer that I feel is the best fit, simply. And it's going to be different. And it's never one model works like we have for certain, I know, competitors out there. I think that we just work with what we have based on the equipment, the swimmers, etc. And how I do that and the way I have stayed confident throughout my career, because Swimmer Strength was founded 2014 for you guys who don't know, and I had 3 years of gap years without working anything because I was working at University of Utah as an international student. Knocking on wood now, though, I'm an American citizen, so I don't have that issue anymore. But going through and using tests to see if the swimmers are developing as they should, and if they are not, what can we do with something going on? And now talking about efficacies, talk about which programs are best, how are swimmers responding best, when are the numbers increasing the most, because that is essentially what we're looking for in a strength program, right? How can we develop performance without limiting anything, and then which program is doing that the best? And for all these 7 years, almost 8 years of doing this, I have essentially coming up with a formula on my own and perfecting it every year and every month. And I'm so blessed and I'm so grateful to be in the position that I am in, for having you guys on, listening to me, sharing all this for free at this point. And though I'm not going to go through every single thing, I'm going to give you a lot of stuff to think about, but certainly a lot more than you potentially had before listening to this webinar. So I appreciate you again. And with that being said, if you hear some dog noises, our dog just got surgery 2 days ago on Monday. Sven, our mini Australian Shepherd, ACL and meniscus, and is now in his crates recovering. So please forgive us if he's crying out for some little empathy and sympathies from you guys. Certainly a hard time. This week has been tough, right? I mean, it's always fun to put on a smile for you guys, but it's just like anyone else. It's hard to go through life during a pandemic, and I'm going to talk to you guys about some more updates, but I know you guys want to get into the meat here. So with that being said, I hope you guys are safe. I hope you've been healthy throughout the pandemic, no matter where you are in the world. I know different demographics are targeted very differently. In India, I know we have a lot of you guys in here. I hope you guys are all doing well, and everywhere else in the world. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to get into it. It seems like you guys can hear me. Bam. So let's roll into the presentation. And for you guys who are new, not everybody have been here with us from day one. My name is Dennis Ekmati. I'm your performance coach. I hope you guys are following our YouTube channel. And if you have picked up the Foundations of Strength Training for Swimmers, I am the author. And by the end of this presentation, I will be giving out one free one. If you already have one, you will have an extra one, or you can have a choice of getting something free from our shop, but it will be rewarded. I will give that out to whoever, and please excuse my voice. I'm also feeling a little cold from our son. We just went back to Utah. I'm from Utah, coached at University of Utah, got my master's degree there. Visited some colleagues, helped them out a little bit on a few fronts before coming back, but I think I caught something coming back. But if you have an original question about testing and swimming and how it relates to whatever question you have that I can help you with. If I'm not covering that in this presentation, you will win and get a free book shipped your way. So stay tuned for the end of the presentation. I will ship it out your way. Need your information, obviously. But I swim for Arizona State University. I'm also a silver medalist for Swedish swimming at national championships. And man, 50 breaststroke. And I just found out as an adult that I have asthma. So I went through my entire swimming career having asthma because I always hit the wall. I could never really finish 100, especially long course. A relay was a 104, individual 106, short course yards 54 mid, 100 breaststroke for a 160-pound guy. It's not that bad, you know. Then you know the stroke and you're kind of powerful relative to your size, and that was me. And I coached Caesar along the way, 2013, helping him win 2 world championship gold medals in the 50 freestyle, 50 butterfly, and that was the ignition to what I am doing currently. And I'm married, I have a kid. Guys, I'm moving to Norway. So I only have another 7 weeks left in America before I am saying sayonara. And we have always talked about one day going to Scandinavia and living there. And I've never been an adult there. 12 years in the US now for me. And it is time for us to pack our gear. It sure has been a lot of accomplishments during my time here. Never did I think that we would be rewarded the top 50 healthcare company award, Swimmer Strength. Oh boy. And all of the successes the swimmers have had, all the different colleges they've gone out to, and who have a potential Olympic qualifier this year who is actually seeded top 10 going into trials, who was now doing 2 years in college and was with the Swimmer Strength virtual program for about 30 months. It was incredible to see his development. And we used some of the testing here to make sure that we were on the right track. So we developed throughout high school. And man, though, testing, it's looked very different from when I was in college. I remember when we went into the weight room and our coach blew the whistle, and it was go time. And it was both pull-ups, it was sit-ups, and we're talking crunches. It was plank holds. One of them held for 6 minutes and it got shaky. I saw the spine rounding all the way. Now, is that efficient? Is that good for us, for a body? You be the judge. For me, not so much. I had one of my roommates, my best man, doing 100 push-ups in 1 minute. They were not very pretty either. Sorry, Jesper, if you're looking at this. But listen, if we don't have any constraints, we don't have any standards, it's going to be hard to replicate the test and also keeping swimmers safe. I've gone some heat in introducing some tests for swimmers, while in advance letting coaches know that, listen, when we do some of these things, once swimmers are ready, not saying give every 8-year-old a push-up test, but once they are ready and I perceive that they can or should be able to attempt a push-up, they should be doing a push-up or doing a side arm bridge plank or elbow bridge plank. And we can expose some potential injuries, something that has been going on through the tests that we do, and even asymmetries between right side and left side of the body, and really see by some simple tests how the kinetic chain really is doing. We talked about it in the core chapter. We're going to revisit a little bit today and go from there. One thing I'm not going to touch on today is reliability and validity, but I'm going to give you guys some time to take some notes. It's going to be very important that you guys do that because you can apply those methods into tests in the water. And I can hear Sven kind of getting at it right now, so I apologize. But I'm ASCA Level 3 certified coach, guys, USA weightlifting coach, and also certified strength and conditioning specialist. And I've been doing this now for 8 years, almost 9 years, and it's so much fun. And it's taken me a long time to come here because I don't want to just give you guys any recites from any kind of book. I want to give you guys something original, something that we can take and apply actually today, tomorrow, whenever you want to, and actually follow up and see how good is your program. And if you ever want to follow up and talk to me about your program and about your numbers, you just go onto the Swimmer Strength website and schedule a performance talk with me. And I love doing those things. And a lot of you guys have taken advantage of it for these past 20 weeks. That being said, guys, let's roll into it. Today, we'll talk about the background, like always, a little bit. Like I said, the testing has not always looked very beautiful in the swimming sphere. So when I got to the University of Utah, I did my best to really standardize protocols for my swimmers so we can actually have something reliable. We'll talk about the problem, in which that is one of them. What can we do to fix it? And then my testing battery, minus movement assessments. I'm not going to go through it in order to save some time. And I know that QSwim, Tom Barton, is doing some good stuff. That is in my book, a few of his sample assessments. But I'm not going to go through it excessively right now, and I'll tell you more about it once we get there. And also some frequently asked questions that I have been getting before, and also we'll talk about now as we get in here. Guys, there's been a crazy explosion of testing devices that are really expensive, and especially if you're a club coach or if you are a D2 or D3 coach out in the US, man, I mean, you don't have that much wiggle room and budget and finances to work with. So I get it, right? So again, I'm creating this for you guys so you have something reliable, something affordable to go off of. Now, when I'm saying this, the first picture that I have here, up here, this is a vert. This is a jump vert. It's not sponsored. This is literally, you can go to Amazon right now, purchase it for 100 or 110 bucks, I think. Super simple. You clip it in your shorts or you have a belt, and it's attached to your Bluetooth, and you get vertical jumps, and you can both get high jumps, and you can also get quantity jumps if you're doing plyometrics. I don't use it for plyometric reasons or the quantity amount of jumps, but I do use it for vertical jumps, both for non-counter movement and counter movement. And it's really reliable and has good validity. The only thing is that it's kind of underestimating values, but so what? If it's something simple, something easy that you can rely on, do it. And I use centimeters. I don't use inches too much, even though I know it's the US metric system or US system. I use a metric system. Let's go back into it. It's hard to interpret the data. So if we don't understand the data and we misunderstand it and we don't know what to do with it, then what are we going to do? Then we're testing for no reason. There's no need to test, feel like you have to, because I do know some strength coaches, personal trainers that actually don't do any tests. And I think that, wow, then you are leaving a lot up to chance. I'm a big believer in luck. If you didn't listen to my last podcast, I think that luck is rewarded to people that put themselves in a position to be afforded to get some luck, or afforded to position them to be lucky, so to speak. And you can't just do that from thin air, I think. So to me, the numbers help me stay sane, yet skeptical to what can get a little bit better, what can I improve for the upcoming season. And then we'll talk about the technique, guys. Is it worth it? Like I said, if we do it 6 minutes plank hold, but it looks like crap, if the neck is shrugging down, and the butt's sinking down, or the lower back is hunching, is it really worth it? Are we really getting anything worth while our time? We don't typically have a sound testing battery, many coaches. And what I mean by that is we tend to go into the season and make the tests up, or having just like a regular fitness test. Say we're going to do all these regular stuff that we've been doing for the past 50 years that we can find in all textbooks. But now we're talking about like, hey, swimming specific and relatability to swimming. Do we have any constraints to the test? I'm talking about push-ups, for instance. It's easy to just do a lot of push-ups and rest, and we get through a different kind of tempo. And at one point, swimmers can find a way to become efficient and cheat their way through pull-ups and push-ups, etc. So what constraints are you putting onto the tests? And then what are we truly testing, right? Are you testing the core? Why are you testing the core? Testing general strength or power? Why? Or how does it look like? And then the assessments, right? And then how do you follow up? And when do you follow up? And we'll talk a little bit about that today as well. Here are my tests. We'll take our time here a little bit. Movement assessments, something that I will not go through. It's in the book. These are a lot of inspired by Tom Barton and QSwim. And I use some of it, but I use a lot more of my coach's eye. When you use your coach's eye a little bit, it becomes a lot more harder to follow up on improvements. But here is the reason I really don't do this, guys, because I haven't found this to be helping performance as much as my power tests and my core tests. And I'm genuine because I have seen swimmers both improve their thoracic rotation and also their scapula upward rotation. So we get a better high elbow catch in the water to improve their streamline and even breaststroke internal and external rotation, but still not seeing drops in training. On the contrary, when they do improve, sometimes obviously when they improve power, they still don't see drops. So we cannot always rely on tests. I'm not going to say this is a magic pill. And if a coach tells you if you improve this many degrees in something and you're going to drop this much, I would love to see it because I haven't yet. Because some swimmers are already passing everything. And then what do they have to rely on? They have to rely on maintaining that range and then developing something else. The core, intermuscular, intramuscular strength, power, right? And all that we're going to talk about in this webinar. And I'm super excited, guys. The core tests that I do, I hope that's reasonable why I'm not going through all of this because there's a lot of them. So we're looking at, again, shoulder elevation or flexion. How easy is it for us to get our arms over our head? I'm really bad at that. Thoracic rotation, internal and external rotation of the shoulder, hip extension, important for our underwaters, and how well the glutes and hamstrings can function. So do we have an active way of testing that, especially for you guys? I do. I love to just lay on our belly. Right note here, side note, on your belly, prone, reverse hyper. How high do the legs go without really going crazy on the lower back? So try to get the lower back disengaged, engage the glutes and the hamstrings. How high can the heels go? And you can 100% correlation of your fastest underwater swimmers of how high their heels go and your slowest underwater swimmers of how high their heels go. Internal, external rotation, or internal rotation, especially for the range and breaststroke kick, but also external rotation for the health and the overall hips. Plantar dorsiflexion and ankle, looking at the kicking ability. Hip hinge, are we able to keep our spine neutral when we are moving? And then overhead squat, just fantastic one that we can see what's going on in the hips, ankles, thoracic spine, shoulders, everything literally. And we can even do overhead lunges. And I do a mix of everything when I work with my swimmers to see. If I work with a large group, I actually do just look at how the general group looks like and what we need to focus on that general week or month to fix, and then focus on something else and reassess how does the group look like now, and then move on. Does that make sense? Because I'm about to move to Norway and coach 160 swimmers, competitive swimmers, all the way from ages 8 to 10 up to 25, 27. So elite levels, people that are going to the Olympics. So which test do we do then? Your discrepancy as a coach, because all of them are not super necessary for little kids. These movement tests, not necessary for little kids. Core tests, I have found exceptionally high correlations to performance in the water and also underwater performance. But underwater performance also will have a high degree of significance in how our spine moves. And what I don't have here is thoracic extension. But typically shoulder elevation. This is poor spelling on my end, excuse me. But anyway, straight arm bridge, McGill sit up, back extension, elbow bridge, excuse me guys, core tests. You get 1 point for every 10 seconds that you hold. Again, you can expose injuries. You're never doing any tests if you feel any pain. Anytime you feel any pain, you are terminating the test and you're not doing it. And the same thing goes for if you are waking up the next morning and the next day and you are in pain. You're not going to do the test again until you fix whatever is going on. I hope you hear me. You're not going to reintroduce a test to a swimmer if the swimmer wakes up and is beyond sore, muscle sore. But if something is pinching when they're moving and something is out of place, then you're not reintroducing that until you fix that. That is your responsibility as a coach. Body weights, strength, intermuscular strength. And you guys want to be here aware of intermuscular and intramuscular strength. Intramuscular, a little bit more body weight, and anything under 80% submaximal weights. Front foot elevated squat, pull-ups, push-ups. Quantity, typically. We're looking for quantity. Strength test, I'm talking about general strength. Any type of squat, front squat, back squat, goblet squat, whatever squat that you choose. Deadlift, I would say pick either one. A lot of swimmers have gone injured. I've been on too many phone calls or performance talks with coaches that are calling about deadlifts. And the deadlift is necessarily not the issue, it's the way they do it. But again, if we don't have a coach to oversee a deadlift or teach it a proper way, don't do the deadlift. But if you want to learn more about the deadlift, subscribe to our library database and you will learn all about all of the exercises, exactly how to perform them. And I promise you it's going to be worth your money and worth your while. It's just $10, maybe $20 a month when you're watching this, but we're going to be increasing the prices pretty soon because we also have more availability of you developing your own strength program or dryland program in your own login, right? So it's going to be a lot more worth it in the future. And if you sign up for a whole year, you get your whole periodization Excel sheet where you can actually lay out your own way of doing it. And you get a good 8-minute video of me instructing you what to think about in the different phases of that. So something that we haven't covered in these 20 weeks is the periodization, but that is available in the 1-year subscription model, which is about $110, $120, I think at this point, potentially, depending on when you are watching this, right? So if you're watching this, one of the first ones here, at any time, the price is about to switch. Talking about some going sidetracked about some tough times. The website has been down. It was down. It just got live again a few days ago, but for a week and a half almost, I just started getting emails again today. So talk about being stressed, guys. And on top of that, giving you guys this presentation, right? Lastly, power. I'm going to come down to the bottom here again. Non-counter movement jump, kneeling, medicine ball, chest throw, one leg broad jump, hang, power clean. Seal row, won't go over the seal row today, won't go over the deadlift today, won't go over regular pull-ups, but almost everything else I'll show you guys here, except for, again, 50% body weight velocity, because again, this is where I think we're lacking more, right? We tend to think about more strength test, but I have seen too many swimmers just get stronger and stronger, but not get faster and faster. But still, these numbers tend to increase slowly depending on the swimmer. But if we're developing how fast we're moving half of our body weight, and the research is coming out more and more, Sean, fantastic research that he did in his graduate thesis, which was looking at that, a counter movement jump, and also a pull-up, weighted pull-up, and the correlations to fast swimming. And just one of them, but coming out more and more. So the core test, back to it, you get 1 point for every 10 seconds that you hold. Max point is 20 seconds, and that's 3 minutes and 20 seconds. That's where I have found being just enough for swimmers to actually hold without having to push the system more. Even for young swimmers, it is good for young swimmers to develop this. And if really young swimmers are able to hold 3 minutes, perfect. As they get older, as they get heavier, they tend to not be able to carry their strength as much. And that's why we see kids at 13, 14 years old doing a pull-up again or holding a bridge again, and comparing from them when they were 9 or 10, when they remember that they could do 5 or 10 easy or hold it for like 3 minutes, but now they have issues with 1 minute or just one pull-up. And that's a natural process in the development. But as a coach in this developmental stage, you can keep track of them, again, without any pain. What I love doing the front foot elevated split squat is that we look at the leg difference here. What discrepancy do we have between the legs? Same thing when we're doing the one leg broad jumps. The difference between them then is we look at the strength and general readiness. If you can hold this, and I'm going to talk about it, my limit is 2 minutes. If you close to 2 minutes, then you are really ready to get more advanced in your strength training. If you can only hold it for 30 seconds per leg, I'm not going to have you doing any advanced squats or Olympic type lifts until you can actually handle your body weight a little bit more. So it's a very excellent test to look at how long we can isometrically hold our body weight. And the closer to 2 minutes, the better. 2 minutes is the cap. That's perfect. And then general strength. All right, guys, let's go over the sit-up or the different tests that we have for the core. Starting with the sit-up. And again, if you want coaching, voiceover, everything is available on our platform. We're putting one hand over the ears. Don't cup the head because I don't want us to rest it here. And we're coming down to about a 45-degree angle and holding it. Either a partner staying on top of the feet or a dumbbell, and then gazing up, and I'm thinking about someone almost pulling a string through your head. That is the general cue. Pretend someone's pulling the string through your head and separate the elbow so we don't shrug and flex the spine too much, keeping the shoulder blades away, almost retracted so that they'll protract away from us. So again, avoid the cupping position. And at one point, guys, it gets really shaky. This gets really, really shaky, and it's okay. I typically say no more than 3 reminders from the coach here. If you remind more than 3 times, test is over. If you feel any pain, test is over. Okay, Dennis, you have to fix your spine. That's not cool. Bam, fixing it. Okay, coach, bam. And some kids will just be able to stay there. And the kicker is to be able to stay there for, you know, the whole time, because when we race, a 200 race is over 2 minutes for many swimmers. So can we maintain the isometric position for that long? If we can, chances are we can also sustain that to our arms and our legs, but it's a lot more that goes into it. So this is one of the first tests. We're obviously testing here the abs, the hip flexors, the psoas, the anterior part of the core. Now, looking at the back extension hold. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, getting in securely. And if you don't have access to a GHD, you can do this on a bench, someone pushing down. But it's important that the end of your hips, the hip bone, is at the end. Now, shoulder blades gently together and down. We don't want to hunch forward. We don't want to drop down here or anything. So again, same thing goes for reminders. Now, this is where tests can typically take a little longer time. I know this might be a little inconvenient in spots, but it's cheap. So if you're able to do it somewhere, I will highly encourage you to do it. If you are not, swimmers can maybe do it at home, out over their bed. Mom and dad hold their legs and they report to the coach what you did. Now, if you want to get a little bit more swimming specific, arms can go out straight back behind you where we are finishing the stroke. But we don't want to shrug the neck up towards the shoulders. We want to just make sure that we are engaged from the hip, hamstrings, glutes, low back, all the way into the spine. And this is where it gets a little bit more swimming specific, where we're finishing essentially in the butterfly stroke. And now we get a little bit more potential engagement from the lats and the triceps to hold that stationary. Straight arm bridge, the next one. So what we're testing, like I said, postural muscles, posterior chain, glutes and hamstrings. This one again, anterior strength, but now we're getting a little bit more shoulder involvement. So if we tested abs, it's a little bit more shoulders now. So if the feet are close together, it's a little tougher. It's a little easier if we are squaring the feet out a little bit more. Avoid hunching up, arching down. And anytime you see anything like this, you have to remind them, squeeze the glutes, get the abs engaged. So we have to tuck it in a little bit, guys, pressing through the ground with our hands and the toes. When the feet tends to slide down, we're pushing the body back. And you see why the core is everything attached to the spine. Yep, you saw my head dip down, and no longer is the core engaged. We don't want to swim that way. So again, remind the swimmers of certain positions that are similar, right? It doesn't have to be swimming specific to use swimming specific cues. The last test, elbow bridge. And this is, guys, where we get typically the first major exposure in injuries. Is there a major difference between the right side and the left side? Now, we want the elbow, shoulders right underneath each other, the top leg in front of the bottom leg, hand either straight up or by your hips. Now, we're pressing through the ground with both feet, so it's not just shoulders, not just obliques and the side abs, but it's also outside hip abductors, talking gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and push through the ground with the elbow. Long neck, avoid the neck shrugging down to the shoulder and dipping the head. It's not looking pretty good, is it? That's the first warning, right? If the hips are sinking and sagging, next warning. So you again, sinking down, pushing down, and we're pushing away. That's a warning. Come back down, push to the ground with the feet, push to the ground with the elbow. That way we're creating more tension. We're protecting both the hips and the elbows. And like I said, you get tests, and to give you guys some real life examples, just to give you guys 2 quick athletes, you can use radar charts. Looking at one, for instance, here, on athlete number 1, having a really solid back extension, little discrepancy between right and left elbow, but not that much. but really poor McGill sit-up. So the back extension and the straight arm bridge, so arms and the posterior chain, way stronger than the anterior abs. Is that making sense to you guys? So you see much more visually here when you point, giving them different points. So again, 1 point for every 10 seconds. So you don't have to keep track of exactly all the seconds. I think that this is a good and reliable way. Again, this is not on any textbook, except for me giving that out in the book, but you're giving you guys more so details here. And looking at when we are testing, this is about 8 to 12 weeks after, getting a little bit stronger and certainly a lot more even on the strength. So we don't have as much gap between them. So even though the back extension came back a little bit, everything else kind of caught up to this athlete, ended up dropping 2.5 seconds in her 100 butterfly. Athlete number 2, this is throughout a season, and you see the difference in the chart. They grow and they grow the charts, the better and better the athlete gets. So overall, a very weak athlete. Overall, a weak athlete that had big discrepancy between the right and left elbow. Now, the right and left elbow was fixed as everything else was developed. Program seemed to have worked. Intermuscular strength. Intermuscular, again, we're talking submaximal body weight strength. Lower body, we're pushing through here. Split squat position, bottom of the toe positioning down, and it's elevated here so we can get good range of motion. And I want it in this position because we get more glute engagement here. I'm putting in the legs, not in the same long position as we're striding in typically. We want, the new research says we should point the knee forward a little bit more. We could even elevate the toe. Listen, whatever you want to do at this point, you can. I think this works excellent because it's a foundational position to be in. You don't want the knee to cave in. You don't want the knee to go too much out. Keep it in right above the heel. And avoid leaning over and overarching the lower back. So here, guys, every few seconds you're holding these, you're recruiting more and more muscle mass. You don't want to be too high. Okay, if you're a little lower, if anything, that's okay. You just don't want the knee to be touching the pad, if anything. Because when you're done, you want to just softly come back down to the ground. And it gets shaky, guys. This gets really shaky, right? I think I'm holding it about a minute for you guys here before I'm coming down because I'm just videoing it for you guys so I have some energy to get through the videos in the gym. But it's straining. It's really straining. So I'm encouraging you today. You can do it with or without a pad, or this week with your swimmers. How long do they hold? And then give them 2 minutes to 3 minutes between each leg, some dynamic stretches, and test the other leg. And then we're going to talk about the differences in the legs. The push-up. I'm not going to talk about the pull-up, but the push-up, such a foundational movement. Putting a tennis ball there. And what I use is a metronome to use a tempo. Down, up, down, up. If you watch my YouTube video, we did a metronome double the speed. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, essentially. Whatever tempo your swimmers are able to do, whatever you want them to do as a coach, you do it, right? Keeping it double, this tempo becomes a 1.0 tempo, similar to Adam Peaty when he's racing 100 breaststroke long course, right? Because tempo is important and are we able to reproduce the strength without sagging the hips, without flaring the elbows out, right? And again, my feet are slightly out again because it's easier on my hips, easier to get my glutes engaged. And your, again, what constraints are you putting on the swimmers? What is important for you? To me, technique is important. And if toes come close together, it's harder for swimmers to maintain the position. Intramuscular, you see how this intermuscular and intramuscular, now all of a sudden we're over 80% of something that we're working. So upper body pulling, I mean, just vertical pull, very classic. Neutral grip is to keep it a little bit easier on the shoulders, not as stressful on the shoulders while we're keeping a neutral grip, giving the humerus a little bit more room to kind of glide here, especially on the rings. But when it's neutral grip, so it's a little easier on the shoulder joint, on the glenohumeral joint, the scapulothoracic position. Oh, I'm trying to get up here, and I didn't make 3 repetitions. So what we're not discussing too much, how many repetitions should we test? Upper body, guys, we're rarely just doing one throw or doing one thing with our upper body. It is cyclical. So I love testing for 3 reps. So I tested here, I think it was almost 75 pounds for 3 reps. So I know that that's about 95% here for 2 reps, right? So, and you can calculate that, what that would be for 1. And then I'm not saying we cannot train at 1 repetition, but when you're testing, make sure you can reproduce the strength. Okay, it's really important. And it's not power here, it's strength, because it's not super fast going up, right? Anytime the speed is going up slower, whether it's a squat, deadlift, or pull up, push up, now you're working a lot more strength than you're working power. And again, intramuscular, because we're above 80%, we're putting a lot more stress on the system. Young swimmers, do we have to do this? No, right? So again, when do we introduce strength for these guys? Well, how do they do on the core tests, right? How are they looking? How many regular pull-ups can they do? Okay, and then we can start perhaps with a little bit of weight. So again, we get a lot of good information with the tests that we do. Again, intramuscular, lower, front squats. I like testing front squats more than I like testing back squats. But again, if you're a breaststroker, you might like the back squats. I love giving, especially my elite level athletes, the option. What would you like to keep track of? I like to keep track of a lot more exercises, such as a push press and everything else, bench press. But when we look at like the tests that we want to track, I like to invite elite level swimmers and then structure it that way, but understanding why we're doing it. And now it's to test lower body. And are we able to get full range of motion? Now this is for 3 reps. Lower body, I might be more okay doing a 1 rep, especially when we're older, later teenage years, or so later college years, depending on how much training years you have, obviously. Oh, it's real life here when you're looking at 3 repetitions. Let's look at it again. Real life 3 repetition max is 185 pounds for me, without like super much training. And it's good to see what goes on in the body. Holding the pressure when you're going through max tests. Because the danger is when we're maxing that we're unable to hold the pressure. See the breath I'm taking here. Like a monkey almost. Jesus, don't have to be that aggressive. In and hold the pressure, hold the pressure. If you're able to relax your face a little bit more, but elbows look pretty good. Let's watch the knees here. Coming in a little bit, but I know my hips are not very good. My pressure feels like they're sliding up a little bit, maybe towards the front of my foot, shifting to my right. Makes sense. I have a right piriformis that is not working really well. So I do my airplanes. I do all my work that I need to do on my hip continually. That's why I can wake up the next morning and not be in pain. And that's the difference, right? If you are in pain doing something, or if you can continue to train at a certain level and not be in pain again, what's the efficacy in your program? How much mobility, how much maintenance work do you get to be able to handle such movements? Now we're going into power. Non-counter movement jump versus a counter movement jump. Excuse me, guys. I'm feeling good, I promise. I have the vaccine, Johnson & Johnson. Non-counter movement jump, simulating a little bit more, getting off the blocks, taking your marks, holding it. Coach says, go, bam, you're jumping and you're landing. Counter movement jump, we're simply swinging our arms, legs stay straight, quick dip into a knee flexion and a hip flexion very fast, and then jumping up. Versus holding the knee and hip flexion before powering through. Again, I like to test this for 2 reasons. One, this is more swimming specific, the non-counter movement jump. The counter movement jump uses a stretch shortening cycle, so we still get to see how well developed is a stretch shortening cycle, the tendon energy. If these numbers are the same, this is not developed enough. If this is way too big, and you get to see that typically based on your coaching eye and how much you've been coaching. If this is way too big, and typically in centimeters, I want to say anything more than 5 centimeters would be way too big, especially for middle, moderate swimmers. Anything over 10% or 10 centimeters or more, and you see the knees awful, we don't want them coming in, is also not very good. And then we need to develop the non-counter movement jump more. It means that we need to get stronger per body weight, simply. All right. And this week we have a bodyweight clinic in Arizona in Mesa. I hope a lot of people will show up, or we only have 12 guests. So if you are in Arizona, or if you know anyone that is in Arizona, I highly encourage you to spread the word and going through different kind of jumps. And you see on the ground here, I have the actual phone looking at how high I'm jumping. So the coach would have that in his hand, have an assistant, write down the numbers and move on. Another power, great for pushing. And I mean, more total body, but engaging upper body a little bit more. I would love to have a force plate where I can do just a kneeling medicine ball slam, bam, onto the force plate and measure how much power is coming onto the plate. That is really good. At the University of Utah, we had the Kaiser machines, essentially cable machines where you're pulling through and you get a power value on per stroke. So I was tracking that with them. Really cool to see also the development in that. But here, really good, cheap way. We don't want to fall forward here. So technical cues on this one. We want to keep the spine straight, ball close to the chest, hips close by the feet, toes on the ground, because you're going to be pushing through the toes, extending the hips as you are releasing the ball. And here, the body needs to lock out. The body should not follow forward. If it does, we're not keeping the engagement and locking out the energy out into the fingertips. So bam, we're just finishing the energy. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Unnecessarily and falling forward with our body. When we fall forward with our body, like I said, we're wasting energy. It might feel better, but I don't like it. We need to control again where the energy goes, both how we are locking out the glutes and also how we are countering the postural muscles with our abs. And again, if you have a mat, so you put out a mat, and I have a measuring tape as well to kind of look exactly how far are we actually getting, and we're looking at where the ball is bouncing. I'm going to talk a little bit about reliability on these tests, especially this throw and these jumps, additionally to the one leg broad jump. There is a way here we can increase reliability in the test. So we can keep giving swimmers the test. I'd go as far as you can, but it's not reliable because some jumps might be further than other jumps. Technique matters, right? So again, what constraints are you putting on the swimmers? How many jumps do they get? What is your protocol? And how do you calculate their best? And then also, how do we track the best one? Swing on one leg, jump, land on two legs. And the reason we'll land on two legs is because I have had experiences with swimmers landing on one leg and actually we're getting close to rolling the ankle. And I don't want to risk it, especially if we're testing this and it's a few weeks out or a few days out from a championship. And, you know, if you're able to land in an athletic position safely, I know it's a little bit of eccentric pull here, but it's a great test on looking at how good the horizontal displacement is, because the horizontal displacement in swimming is way more valuable in the start performance than the actual counter movement jump or the vertical jump, the non-counter movement jump. But it's still really good tests to look at. Again, I'm going to talk to you guys about how I do that for both sides as well. Hang power clean. Let's look at the test. Again, it's amusing to look at how it looks like in real life. And if you are a subscriber to our channel, you will get to hear me coach through this, where I'm pointing myself out, what I'm doing. And the next version of this is going to be actual graphics on the videos. But anytime you're standing up, it has to be a good deadlift. Feet positioning has to be good. Hang power clean, pop, landing. Coming in, first one looks not too bad. Again, 3 repetition max. 3 repetition max. Typically harder. I wouldn't recommend coming down and catching it like I'm doing, pop, like that. I am ready. I'm really ready for this. I would recommend having blocks here instead, letting it come to the blocks. And wow, you saw me just jump 4 on the last one, didn't you? Let's look at all 3. Number 1, look at how far my feet go up. It's not too far away from each other on the first one. The more uncomfortable swimmers gets, the heavier it gets, the more the leg widens. You don't want to go super wide. The most width you want to go is as wide as the squat position you're in. And this is as wide as I am in a squat position, right there. And I come right back in. Come feet back in. And the key is to keep the barbell close to the body. barbell path needs to be good. Extending the legs first. And the key and the challenging part here is, even for myself and for many, is to keep the barbell close to the body, have the lats and the triceps enough engaged. But now I'm sliding out way further and I'm jumping forward even because I have a hard time engaging my hips. Again, I think it's because I'm protecting my back, not going to make excuses, something I have to work on. Again, if I have a coach that is able to give you cues like this to work on, it's fantastic. It's not every day I work with videos like this. All right, guys, before I go into these frequently asked questions, what I know that I don't have in here is the reliability here. Like I said, the one leg broad jump, kneeling chest pass, vertical jump, cantilever jump. Anytime you're jumping, give them at least 3 attempts. Write this down. I'm not saying that to be a douchebag. Please write this down. Give them 3 attempts because sometimes they might not be warmed up enough. So they might keep increasing. Cool. Bam, 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 bam. Awesome. If they keep increasing to number 4, give them a last chance. 5, because they might keep going forever. You might have a big group. You cannot go forever. 5 chances all they get. Sometimes, depending on how large a group is, I say 3 is all you get. Maybe sometimes 4 is all you get. All right, but if you want really good sports science here, 5. Then you take the average of the best 2. The highest 2 numbers, you take the average. So if you have a 40.5, 41.5, the average is 41.0. Your highest is 41.0. Even if you had a few warm-ups on the 38 and a few warm-ups on 39, but you kept going up, all right, we kept going. But then the 4th one was then again 39. We don't have to test you again. The system is getting a little tired. We're not able to produce enough force. I hope that makes sense. For both tests, so I typically do 1 test, rest, go through the circle. The next test, go through the circle. Depends on who you are as a coach, what kind of constraint you have in your workout that you go through and test these things. Same thing here. Give them minimum 3 jump or 3 throws because, and again, don't count the throws that are bad, right? If they are actually getting their hands on the ground and it looks bad, it doesn't look controlled, don't count it. X mark it, all right? And especially here on the one leg broad jump, sometimes swimmers take a step forward. If we take a step forward, it doesn't count. We measure from the back of the heel when we land. So if I jump here, I pause it, measure, boom, from the heel, back of the heel, and the back of the back heel, not the front heel. So sometimes we're a little bit asymmetric, but that's okay. But again, we will find out a lot of asymmetry between the right leg and the left leg. Really good. Some good research also that the strongest leg, the most powerful leg should be on the wedge when we're doing track start because that has the highest force and highest relations into speed jumping in to horizontal displacement. The front foot for vertical displacement, we don't want to jump high off of the blocks. We want to jump forward off of the blocks. And that back leg, the strongest legs, tends to have the highest power output, the highest amplitude, even though it's pretty close here. Some research that you will find in resources on our website later. Don't have to recite again everything, but just letting you guys know quick here as a note, the strongest legs seem to be in the back, but I did not know that. I thought it was the front leg that was the strongest one because that's what I've been doing throughout my career. So if I ever come back into swimming, right, it's going to be a readjustment phase for me to put my right leg there. The only issue for me is that I know that my right leg doesn't have as good hip extension as my left. So the question then becomes on my end, is it worth it for me? Right, so everyone is gonna be different, but do I need to fix that hip extension? Absolutely. Have I been trying to forever? Absolutely. Am I getting my appendix and my stone removed on the right side of my belly in just a month? Absolutely. Stuff that we sometimes don't know, but sometimes potentially issues that will linger on afterward as well. Okay. Frequently asked questions. And I hope, by the way, you are asking your questions because if you're asking your most original question, you will win the Foundations of Strength Training for Swimmers. And if you already have it, you will get it signed or you will get to choose whatever you would like from the Swimmer Strength shop. Frequently asked questions. How do I calculate the difference in different limbs? I'll get to it. How do I calculate the change over time? Well, we'll get to it. How often do we need to test? Everyone is different. I will get to it a little bit here, right? How are these tests relevant to swimming? perhaps the most important question, and how much improvement on land do we need to see some time drops in the water? Some major questions. Excuse me, guys. Let's go to it and think about your questions. And if this is kind of in lines, I'm not seeing your questions right now. Excuse me, guys. I want to know. Or you can rethink or reformulate your question as well. All right. Here is how we look at the percentage difference. And we have a little example at the bottom. If we're looking at the strongest arm or the strongest leg, whatever metric that is, like however long minutes, seconds we're holding, or how far we jump or how high we jump, you take the strongest one over the weakest one. Excuse me. Here I'm off a little bit. Strongest one versus the weakest one. And once you have the strongest one versus the weakest one, you divide that again over the strongest one that you had, or the highest value that you had. So you get the difference essentially. So it's not the strong here again, it's the strong over the weak. So you get the difference essentially over then the big number, and then multiply by 10, you get your difference. So example, say we're doing the front foot elevated squat hold or elbow side bridge. We are 84 seconds on the right. We are 61 seconds on the left. So we take 84 minus 61. We get 23. All right, then we take the 23, divide that over 84. That was the highest value we had. We get 0.27. Multiply that not by 10, by 100. Dennis made the mistake again on the PowerPoint. 100. We're only human. And we get 27% difference. That is a huge difference. That's a red flag for me. And typically within 8 to 12 weeks of training, that can come down to 10 weeks. Again, how effective is your program? How good are you as a coach? And who are you working with? Who are you associating yourself with when you are dealing with these kind of things? How do we measure change over time? You take the differences again here, take the second value typically over the first value if we have had any change here. And then you take the new value over the first value, multiply by 100 again. So again, if we're looking at if we test the first time we test the, say the straight arm, or say the McGill sit-up, we're testing this McGill sit-up, 61 seconds, and then 84 seconds, 12 weeks later. Wow, okay. Taking the 84 over 61, 23. Now we're taking 23 over 61. So we have our new, or old value, which is what we're taking it with. We are dividing, it's not minus here, I'm making it a wrong one. It's supposed to be divided over the first value. We get 0.37 times 100. That was correct. And that is a 37% increase, which is a quite significant increase over time. And we tend to see really good changes in the core, guys. And not only are people moving better on land, they make the connections better in the water. They tend to feel like, wow, I'm actually making changes like my coach wants me to do in the water better. He's asking me to rotate more. He's asking me to press through my hips more. And I'm able to now do that after getting stronger after a few weeks and months of training. Do you think that same swimmer would have been able to do that if he just was pounding swimming and swimming and swimming, talking about specific and specific and specific training? I don't think so. So even though this is specifically relating to swimming, we can do anti-specific work to still relate this stuff to swimming and have good correlations, even though not all correlation is causation, right? Because there are some anomalies. But it's exciting for me to track this. So how often do we need to test this? Well, again, it's all going to depend. What's the training age? How old are they? How elite are they? I mean, it's going to really matter. The core, we don't have to test more than 4 to 12 weeks because, again, every time you test, you're stressing the system maximally. And depending on what time of phase you are, when this test is set, if the swimmers if they're not feeling it, it can be detrimental to bad technique leading to injuries, right? So you don't want to overdo it. I'm working with my own little brother right now who's saying he's bench press testing himself every month. What do you think I think of that? Right? And he's an elite, he's a 17-year-old handball player in Sweden, and their shoulders and their upper body, they rely on that. If his shoulder blows out, it will be because he did that. But I have to pull the brakes and tell him you don't need to do it that often. There's different ways we can test it. How fast are you moving half of your body weight or half of your max now, and keep moving that faster, because in the end you're throwing a ball, right? You're not moving bricks. And then the general strength, 4 to 12 weeks as well, I would say. So I think core and the general strength kind of go hand in hand together. The more elite you are, the further away from big championships you want to test those general strength stuff. So you have that early season, mid-season, and end of the season, but I want to say 8 to 12 weeks away from the major championships. The power jumps can be tested every week. That's not very straining at all, right? And then this can be both good to see how the swimmers are continuing to develop and trickling up. And I know the best coaches in the world are doing this. I don't have that many swimmers I need to do that with. And I don't have that many elite swimmers I work with that I need to do that with at this point. Right, soon I will be testing power jumps every week, because I'm moving to Norway, and we will be working a lot more with elite swimmers, and they will be relying a lot more on their recovery. How tired are they? How is their body feeling? How was the weekend? And simply doing jumps gets amazing information for us, and then giving that to the swimming coach if we need to adjust anything throughout the weeks. And every so often we do adjust. Power throws, similar stuff. They're not very straining, 2 to 6 weeks. Power movements, every 8 to 16 weeks. We don't have to test those things super often. Keeping an eye on them is important. Tracking them, sure. Testing them, we don't have to always either, because there's some cons with that. Some swimmers don't like it. There can be bad timing in their life. If they don't feel it, if it is a bad timing in their life, the results are going to be down. They're not going to feel good about themselves. They're not going to feel empowered, especially if they don't go PR. But they are important. Some swimmers say, I don't want to compare myself. But listen, when you're stepping up on the blocks, you're comparing yourself with 7 other swimmers. So it's time to put on the big boy shoes and get ready to compete a little bit. However, I'm saying the timing, right? The timing is important. And also which test to which age group. You're not going to power clean a 10-year-old. No, absolutely not. But you can certainly jump a 10-year-old. You can certainly do a McGill sit-up with a 10-year-old. So again, discrepancies. How is this relevant to swimming? Underwaters, we've seen, or I have seen, because I've worked with my academy, even though that has been, it's hard for me to leave the academy going to Norway right now, and it didn't go quite the way I wanted to go. I learned so much, and seeing that we have tremendous correlation. Correlation is not causation, but oh boy, does it help. Oh boy, does it feel good, both for the swimmer and for the coach, to see that if we are improving this on land and continue to develop this, and also, of course, hone in on doing underwaters in practice, we see that has some correlation in development and how much we're improving the core and how much faster we're getting in the underwaters, right? So having those baselines are really cool. Same thing with starts, turns, stroke length, stroke rates. Swimmers that typically don't have high stroke rate, they are just not strong enough relative to their body weights. They need to get a little bit stronger, need to be able to produce force a little bit quicker, and also increases our stroke length. We're able to press and hold water more if we increase range of motion, especially if we're getting stronger without limiting range of motion. We will be increasing the stroke length, and we do these things and we increase those things. If these things get better, we swim faster. And the major problem with strength training, right, is that we get stiffer, we get bulky, so stroke length gets compromised. But a good strength program for swimmers, right? We're in the 2020s now. A good strength program for swimmers takes all those things into account. A good strength coach knows the anatomy. They know how the shoulder blades work. They know how the hips work. They know how the ankles work. And they also know that stressing it exactly the way swimming is supposed to be done on land may not be the most effective ways of improving these metrics in the water. So how can you actually test these in the water? The same exact way I gave you for the jumps. You can give them 3 pushes off of the walls to 15 meters underwater, kick, 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 kick. This has high correlations also how they are developing in their respective races. And I'm so serious. It's a really good correlation. Same thing with the starts. From the start out to 15 meters. You can do it on your stopwatch. Turns, swim from halfway in, into the wall, out. So you clock from head, into the wall, out, head, from flag to flag. Another one. Experimented with this, guys, from 2015. That's why I'm so confident that my strength programs are working because it's changing these metrics. And if they're changing these metrics and my programs are helping these metrics, then you know that you got a trusted program here or trusted source of strength training. And I'm not saying that to really hone you guys in. I mean, you guys see this, right? You really do. And it's simple as you doing that. Now, you don't take the best 2 values in average dose for the swimming test. No. So we did that differently because the stopwatch is not as reliable as the vertical jump meter. So what we did here in Utah, we looked at the validity and reliability in these and actually looked at 3 stopwatches. So if you have 3 coaches looking at this, that's going to increase the validity in this test. But you don't have to. You can simply give them 3 attempts as a coach, take when the feet leave to the 15 click, and take the 2 values that are closest to each other. So you might have someone kicking in at an 8.7, and then an 8.85, and then an 8.68. Then you will take, even though it's the fastest ones, actually, let's say 8.8, and an 8.7, and then an 8.83. Then you would take the 8.83 and the 8.8 and average that, and not the 8.7, because they were closest, and that's going to increase the validity in that test, both for underwater, starts, and turns in the water. So you average those and you track that over time. And those have really good correlation, guys, to what I just presented on land as well. And I mean, you just do it for 12 weeks. Do it for 12 weeks if you're a swimming coach and you want to add some tests on land. Either get a jump mat, get a jump mat to see the jumping, or even the vertical, whatever you want to do to get it that is reliable, do it. Here is something that I'll share with you that I'm guaranteeing that no one else has shared with you or can confidently share. And that is that if you increase your vertical jump power about 15 to 20%, granted, your range of motion does not get compensated, right? Granted, you are not compensating your cardiovascular output, your VO2 max, your lactate threshold. All that stays the same because I have those numbers. They stay about the same. Then, bam, about 1 to 5% drop in the pools because I'm tired and sick of the arbitrary numbers. Yeah, I dropped 2 seconds in my 100. Oh, yeah, I dropped 3 seconds in my 200. Or drop half a second in my 50. How many percent did you drop? And it's the same thing, you know, from someone dropping from 18 to 17:30. I'll drop 30 seconds in my mile. But again, that percentage might not be as high as you think from someone dropping, you know, half a second in the 50, or they might look very similar. And again, that's also very arbitrary. The younger we are, the less advanced we are, the less physical preparation that we have, or lower biological age we are in, the more we will see these being true. Now, Caleb Dressel, he will probably need a 15 to 20% increase in vertical power to see about a 0.5%, 0.7% drop. That will be enough for him to break the world record, right? So the elite of the elites really have to work on improving their vertical power. In which, in some instances, if you already have a 40-inch vertical, increasing 15 to 20 may not be feasible, right? But after a while, after a few years, it might be more feasible, right? And then we have more tests to manipulate the vertical power jump because, again, great correlations between the core strength and the core numbers and the vertical jump and the broad jumps as well. Right, so improving one metric helps other metric as well. So it's just really fun to track this. And this is how and why I call myself a sports scientist, because I do rely on numbers to move myself and my programs forward the right way. And if you are looking for any support and you want some guidance and you've been seeking this for a long time, we have the virtual coaching. And me moving to Norway, coaching 150 plus competitive swimmers, you know that I am not going to have as much time for this anymore. However, we're streamlining this. I am educating other coaches to do what I do. If you think that you might be one of them, email me, Dennis@swimmerstrength.com, DENIZ@swimmerstrength.com. I want to talk to you. if you might be a good fit, because we're continuing to develop a lot more things, because Sumo Strength is not going anywhere. Luckily, they want me to continue working on Sumo Strength because they value education. That's exactly what I've been doing for you guys here, educating you on testing relevant to swimming. And this is for any team that is out there listening to this, or any individual who's out there, mom, dad, or even master's swimmer who want their own personal development, or even for a coach who wants to learn this. So we have a broad perspective of this virtual coaching, but again, my time is really limited. And if you do sign up here and you get on this within this week, you will get your first month for free, guys, and you train for a year with me and you get it for free, because these webinars are coming to an end. If you have been watching all of these, or if this is your first one, you will get replays of everything else, but it's been fantastic 20 weeks, right? And these things give you a little bit of accountability in your training, because you will have workouts, either 2 to 5 workouts per week. It's up to you to do them. I'm not going to be over Zoom. If I'm going to be on Zoom every workout doing them with you, it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's not going to be worth it. And it's not going to be as good quality. So based on whatever equipment that you have, right, you will actually get those kind of workouts for you. So all the swimmers that we have on the platform right now, and that's the Bridge Tracker, Bridge Athletic platform that we're working through. It's not the same as a Sumo Strength platform. This is a more premium level source of training where you save time, right? And you have support, you have more guidance throughout this. You have monthly chats, follow-ups with me, and you will also get a t-shirt, you will get a mobility ball, foam roll, or a super band, man. And I'll guarantee you will swim faster, 1 to 5% within 1 year, within 6 months. I guarantee, whoever you are with your team, and we'll take the average of your whole entire group and look at how much you guys improved the last year or the year before that, whether you've worked with one program or another. And if the results are not there, full refund. And I'm serious. But then again, I need to see, right, what you worked with in the past so we can actually compare. But at this point in my life, I am this confident in what the Sumo Strength program can do for you. And what is the Sumo Strength program? It's not just the one thing. It's whatever is needed for you. So I hope you understand that. If you want your own gear, sumostrength.com/shop, mobility balls, super bands in different sizes and resistances, and foam roll, even a cap and t-shirts if you want to buy them to support us in our move to Norway, guys. America, you have been real. It's been amazing. It's time to move on. It's time for Sumo Strength to spread their wings, because we're global. And I speak the Scandinavian language, and I've always been curious to see how it is to live out there. But by no means is Sumo Strength over. You will be seeing some great things coming, and I hope I can get your feedback and thoughts on how these webinars have been. And if you have read the Sumo Strength book, I'm going to go right into the Q&A here, guys. If you have read the Sumo Strength book, bam, done. Please review it on Amazon. I appreciate it. I got my first 1-star review. Man, this is a good book. I do know that the pictures may not be like the most top-notch, but this is self-published, guys. I did this myself, and it took a lot of energy and time for me, blood, sweat, and tears, early mornings and late nights, because I am a father. I had to wake up at 4:30 many mornings and go to bed at 11, 12 p.m. to write this one for you guys. And I appreciate you guys letting me know what could have been better, what I can do better in the future. Same thing on Amazon. Let me know what you would like. Some constructive feedback is appreciated, but 1 star feels a little shallow to me. So if you have a genuine 1 or 2 star and the reason for it, let me know. But this is a great book. And right now, I'm going to look at some questions. Frederick and Gökhan, please be with me. Let's start with Frederick. Should we cover any difference in the tests, man or women? Okay, good question. Honestly, to me, no. That's my first hunch, no. They have slight physiological differences, men and women. So the question is, should we treat them differently in the tests that we do? Potentially some movement tests. I mean, when we look at the hip internal, external rotation, we might see some discrepancies. We might see some general change towards one side or another when we're looking at men and females, but not to test them differently. No, because our physiology is typically the same, right? So I wouldn't see any major reason to do that. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Frederick. Gökhan, when we're working with groups such as varsity teams, would you still prescribe the hang clean test? Good question. They don't know the technique. Absolutely not. You got it. That's why I said no. So the question simply is no, we don't need to. No, we need to be proficient in the tests. We don't have to do the clean test if they don't want to. That's why I said earlier too also, what tests would you like to do? Someone might want to do a snatch. I want to see how much better I get in the snatch. Then it's discrepancy of the coach. I know, maybe yeah, maybe no. It can be simply as a jump shrug with the vert. Right? You do a jump shrug because this jump shrug creates a lot more power output than the hang power clean, for instance. Right? So if you have something vert or you have also, or a jump mat, hold maybe half of your body weight, similar to squatting half of your body weight, and that would be just as good, potentially actually better, right? The reason I have the hang power clean there is because it's genuinely a preference for some people, including myself. If you're comfortable with your abilities, do it, right? And again, it depends on how much freedom the coach wants to give to the swimmers here. I'm going to continue your question here. I hope I responded well enough to that one. Because you're talking about the key performance indicators. Would you mind explaining the technical reasoning behind the back squat versus the front squat? The technical reasoning simply is you get more range of motion in the back squat more often. It's more weight. Swimmers rely more on their legs, or breaststrokers rely more on their legs to create speed and power versus the other strokes. And it's easier to go down full range of motion typically. But again, you can do it on the front squat as well. It's a preference thing. And I've generally felt that more breaststrokers like doing the back squat, if that makes sense. So that is my general one. But I would love for those breaststrokers before they get to that point to still be able to do a good front squat. But again, it's not that important. The better KPI for power and then for performance is how well they move 50% of that. And then even a jump shrug 50% of their body weight. Good questions. I'm continuing. During testing, limitations in staff, absolutely. A lot of people. Letting their record, McGill sit up. Yeah, you can, right? I mean, it depends on your trust here. As long if you're a great coach at communicating, again, right? This is real life limitations. If you're able to, I mean, one way I would say will be cool is like to see that they're not cheating, is to video themselves when they do it. If they do the test themselves, video it, because I do know it's a lot of swimmers. You can also incorporate it into a dryland session. So you don't have to have like a super straining workout. If you have a workout that is not as straining, towards the end of that workout, you can actually introduce one or two of those tests. So you get like 3 or 4 minutes in between the tests. And you can take, if it's 36 kids, you can take 18 together, and the coach just watches everybody. Or you can have kids pairing up to judge each other. Like, okay, time up for you, right? Because I reminded you 3 times. And now instead of having one coach on 36, now you have 18 coaches for 36. Does that make sense? And all you have to do then is keep track of the time, and then arm comes up or something, they let you know when the time is up, or they see when the time is up, and they come back and let whoever's recording the numbers record it. That way it's a little bit more reliable, but you can do it so many different ways. They can certainly do it themselves. The more elite they are, the more accountable they are, the more honest they will be. Letting them know, right? You cannot take shortcuts to get there. You cannot like say, oh man, I improved like 2 minutes, but oh man, why did I only drop half a second in my 200? Right? Maybe you did not do that much. Or maybe you were not as honest in your testing. So you can create some discrepancies or some challenges that way as well. Is it a good idea to let athletes record, Bam? Yeah. again, you can split it up, like I said. Push-ups, potentially, right? I mean, if you have to, you can. And I appreciate that. Gökhan, that was awesome. With that being said, I think Gökhan, that was the most original question. So Gökhan, you get a book, you get a swimmer strength book, Foundation of Strength Training for Swimmers. Appreciate it. Either signed or anything you want from the shop. I don't know if you've supported it. But again, guys, if you have gotten the book, please review it. Go to Amazon. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. Answers you can, or questions you can think about is any problems that it helped you solve? What 3 things did it help you solve? And were you reluctant to read it? And would you recommend it to anyone else, and why? And an honest review. Again, I appreciate any constructive feedback. Again, if you have been on these webinars, I appreciate it. It's been 20 fun weeks for me. It's time for me to move on and work on other projects. This summer, I'm going to come up with a good module for a potential strength training certificate, a swimmer strength specialization certification for anyone that wants to learn a lot more in depth of what swimmer strength is all about. And I know there has been a high demand on online certifications and even workshops in the future for weekend certifications on how we actually work with real life constraints. Because it's not about knowing these things. How can we improvise and solve these real life problems in different programs, in different cities, in different countries, because different cultures, they're going to have different problems too. And I'm really, really aware of that. And I want to, again, thank you so much for your time. This has been a free webinar. Again, if you want to talk more in depth about your program, Performance Talks, go in and schedule a performance talk with me. The virtual coaching is filling up. That interest is going kind of out of hand. And a lot of people don't understand that it comes at a cost. This is an investment for you and your team. And if you want to be part of it, you want to. And then at the very lowest tier, you have the book, and you have all of our hundreds of videos for just $10 or $20 a month, depending on when you're looking at it, or $110, $120 a year, where you can also develop and build your own dryland program, your strength program, 1 day to 7 days a week, 1 block to 10 blocks, all of the exercise that we have, in addition to all the educational material that we have. And man, this is so much fun. Even though I have a bad week and a bad day and Sven has been barking, just talking to you guys is fun. Like answering your questions is fun. And I know I cannot make everybody happy. I'm not in the business to make everybody happy. So I appreciate you sitting in here, because this is where you get way more context behind everything, because real life is about moving around the different constraints and conceptualizing it for you guys so you can actually do something, apply these things. And I hope you have at least gotten one thing to do something a little bit better today or this week or next week. And if you want more to talk about, you know where to find me. Appreciate you guys. Take care.